Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for a deeper look at episode 20 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Waking Nightmares. But first, a rapid run-through. Let's kick off the counter. It's morphin' time. Okay, so we open on Dino Henge at night where Ion's having a nightmare. Flashback 65 million years. The original Dino Fury team is overwhelmed and decides to use untapped grid energy to form a new Ultrazord. It does not go well. They defeated the Sporks, but the Ultrazord self-destructed, with only Zato and Ion escaping, hence why they both still wake up with nightmares even though they've got an early morning. Gotta dig up those Dino keys. At Area 62, Mucus dreams of being cool, while Void Knight gets impatient with the slow progress on the machine. Come on, dance party! The Rangers dig up the curse-breaking Light Dino Key and the Black Hole-making Shadow Dino Key with the help of Dr. Akana, who wants to run tests on the Dino Henge statues, while the Rangers hunt down the Light and Shadow Zords. They're stranded on the planet Nibiru? So Ion combines the Light and Shadow Keys into the Cosmic Dino Key to open up a portal to Nibiru, which Zato jumps through, getting scanned by a beam and suddenly facing pink, blue, black, and green Dino Fury Rangers? They attack just as the portal fails due to lack of power, but luckily Dr. Akana has discovered how to tap straight into the morphing grid through the Dino Henge statue, so Ion recharges the Cosmic Key, makes a new portal, and hops through. Two villain crew in the bushes getting a new idea. Void Knight releases Regal to resurrect Boom Tower, gets armed with Slither Sporks and a new set of cannonballs, while Ion joins Zato in fighting the resurrected Rangers on Nibiru, recognizing they keep repeating the same phrases from his nightmare. Cue flashback to the flashback. The others go fight Boom Tower, launches a pair of cannonballs that crack apart into empty shells, the Rangers laugh off before morphing, and probably get knocked out by their own back explosions twice. Meanwhile, Ion and Zato try demorphing and use some good memories to get through the Nightmare Rangers. Valor, honor, strength, and pride, please fist bump, don't kick or hide. Their memories of solidarity win through and the illusions vanish, revealing the Guardian of Nibiru. Perfectly normal, friendly, glowing orb of nightmares. It reveals the illusions were a defense mechanism and agrees to take Ion to the source, while Zato takes the portal back to Earth to help the other Rangers against Boom Tower and the henchmen until they realize the cannonballs have been full of gas. And they live in a world where fighting means sparks. But Ion returns with the Zords and uses Shadow Battle Armor to suck away all the gas with a black hole, so Boom Tower grows and the Rangers summon the Zords, including the new Shadow Raptor Zord, which combines with the Moza Razor Zord to make the Moza Shadow Megazord. Little light on light this week. Dino Fury Megazord Warrior formation sets up Boom Tower for a Shadow Mega Blast to crush him into a black hole, but then Solon calls the Rangers to reveal that Void Knight stolen Dr. Akana's equipment. Roll credits! And that's the end of the episode. Now, let's take a deeper look. Although there are technically 2 more episodes left to go, Waking Nightmares is functionally the penultimate episode of Dino Fury's first season, and as such has a fair bit of heavy lifting to do in order to bring together the season's plot threads and character arcs to set the stage for the season finale. Ion and Zato's backstory has consistently been one of the most interesting running threads of the season, and so it makes sense for them to take center stage here, providing emotional catharsis for the past before moving forward into the future. And I have to admit, I'm still impressed by that backstory. Because while we've had backstories before where ancient warriors were lost in battle, we've very rarely received this kind of detail on the how. Although we had seen the self-destructing Ultrazord scene play out back in ancient history, Waking Nightmares provides the key details to definitively confirm that this was the event where they lost their teammates, and that Zato was the one who initially presented the plan that led to these consequences. This harkens back to my criticisms of ancient history, again making it seem strange that Ion would call attention to Zato's failing to prevent the Ancient Sporks War, but not the fact that the last conversation they had was literally him leading 2/3 of their team to their doom? Seems like the sort of thing you might want to bring up to the new team when trying to usurp the old leader. Just saying. But that being said, Ion didn't object to this plan like he did to the creation of the Sporks, even though it would have made perfect sense for this to act as a breaking point. But that isn't really the fault of this episode, or to a certain extent, possibly even the writers, as it does seem that there has been something of a push in recent years not to let interpersonal conflicts between Rangers spill over into multiple episodes. So I imagine that even referencing Zato and Ion's past conflict here would have violated that intent, but that's just pure speculation on my part. On a much more interesting speculative note, the fact that the destruction of the ancient Ultrazord was caused by drawing from untapped grid energy does set up some interesting tension for later on in the series, as not only do we now know that there's a majorly powerful combination that still has yet to debut in present day, but it's specifically one that previously led to the unprecedented loss of 4 Rangers. And I feel like that's a pretty big risk that they're going to have to take sooner or later. Looking forward to the dramatic tension of that moment, I'll tell you that much. Of course, the most major point of setup here... Ready and action. Of course, the most major point of setup here is Void Knight's patience becoming exhausted as he decides to steal Dr. Akana's equipment to finish powering his machine, choosing to forego the slow accumulation of Sporix energy for the much faster acquisition of Morphin Grid energy. Ever since Void Knight's machine was introduced way back in the second episode, it's been pretty clear that fully powering it was going to be the arc leading into the season's endgame. But choosing to have the tipping point be energy from the Morphin Grid instead does add a nice little spin on things that ramps up the stakes much more effectively than simply following the gotta catch 'em all Sporix mechanic to its conclusion. Although I will say that having Dr. Akana be the one to tap into the energy in a way that Solon never discovered over the course of 65 million years feels kind of odd. Like, wasn't she introduced as an archaeologist? Because almost everything she's done this season outside of digging up a pirate chest feels way outside of her field. I will give the show credit for setting this up, though, as she was originally introduced investigating Dinohenge, and has since had the opportunity to scan the storm generated by Ion's Morphin Grid energy buildup during Storm Surge, so the pieces are there for her to make the connection, even if it's not exactly within her specialty. However, the reveal does still feel mildly contrived, as not only does she just so happen to make it right at the exact moment when the Rangers are wondering how to power the Cosmic Dino Key, but also at the same moment that Mucus, Slither, and Void Knight are all waiting in the bushes spying on them. And apart from drawing attention to the fact that Solon really needs to update her surveillance system, why were they there? Like, in phoning home, Slither was explicitly spying on their activities for the purposes of infiltration, but in this episode, not so much. It's odd because while we have seen Void Knight's crew spy on the Rangers plenty of times before, I believe that this is the first time that all three of them have gone out to do so together, and it's in no way set up by their previous scene in Area 62, which effectively served to restate their goal, but didn't really do anything to establish any new strategies for accomplishing that goal. This is actually a little disappointing, specifically because Void Knight, Slither, and even Mucus have consistently delivered surprisingly strong strategies throughout the season. So it is a bit of a shame that the penultimate plan is so reliant upon convenience, contrivance, and just the Rangers being clueless. Seriously, Boom Tower kept showing off his special cannonballs and just no one was picking up on the fact that they were in any way connected to the random explosions? Not your best moment, guys. Even the fact that Void Knight's plan did work to distract the Rangers long enough for him to steal the equipment is undermined by the fact that it was made extra easy by the lack of surveillance that I had just mentioned. Now, I don't want to give the false impression from all of these criticisms that this episode didn't function as a strong lead-in to the finale, as there is still a lot of pathos, strong spectacle, great action, and good concepts. Plus, it's great to see so many different little plot threads finally starting to pay off for both the characters and the story. Although Regal still remains a random walking plot device with no clear origin. But apart from Regal having originally come out of nowhere back in Old Foes, it is nice to see Void Knight using him effectively here, bringing back Boom Tower for the first time since his destruction back in Unexpected Guest. Even though he's a robot that probably could have been rebuilt, I recognize that Void Knight's on a time crunch. And that acknowledgement that Regal mattered, that Boom Tower mattered, that Dr. Akana's previous experiments mattered, that the missing Zords and Dino Keys mattered, that Ion and Zato's final stand with the original Dino Fury Rangers mattered, all goes a long way to building a stronger sense of continuity and cohesion to the season as a whole. And all that has been possible with plenty of episodes that have had no bearing on anything that I've just described. It all speaks to a much stronger sense of balance than we've seen in quite some time, still allowing for breathing room within what has otherwise been a fairly tightly woven story. That's not even getting into the big world-building elements that were introduced here, as we now not only have the Cosmic Key opening gateways to other worlds, but also the unveiling of Dinohenge's direct connection to the Morphin Grid, opening up an entire universe, if not a full-on multiverse of possibilities for what has largely been a mostly Earthbound story up until this point. Nibiru itself presented us with a fantastic standalone concept for an otherwise very continuity-heavy episode, with the Guardians' nightmare illusions functioning as a great way for Zato and Ion to work through their Survivor's Guild in a way that felt as an appropriate in-universe challenge for them to recover the lost dinosaurs. Although I still can't decide if the Nightmare Rangers continually repeating their last words was genuinely chilling or just cheesily redundant. The Rangers really had a rough time picking up on hints this week. But even the Cosmic Gateway and the Nibiru Guardian itself were both absolutely gorgeous examples of the great use of light and particle effects that have permeated this season, from the teleportations to the energy slashes to the stunning morph sequences. This is also one of the few cases where the introduction of new Zords feels genuinely earned, and the reported special abilities of both the Light and Shadow Raptor Zords do feel like they'll be contributing more than simply checking off additional boxes for the ongoing toy line. Although, considering how long it took to see the release of the initial 5 Zords, I'm weirdly no longer really sure how big of a priority that line really is under Hasbro. Are we actually going to see a Shadow Battle Armor Gold Ranger figure at some point? I have no idea. There are absolutely plenty of issues to be found in this episode, most of which could pretty easily have been smoothed over, whether we're talking about giving a reason for the villains to spy on the Rangers, allowing the Rangers to more quickly recognize the unusual threat of Boomtower's cannonballs, providing Dr. Akano with a clearer background in analyzing energy anomalies, or even something as simple as a portal being responsible for the new Zords being on Nibiru, instead of having an explosion send them clear across the universe. But these things are more than made up for by how effectively the episode makes use of past continuity to blend disparate elements with a conceptually strong standalone story to create an impactful and exciting lead-in to our big first season endgame, where I am very much intrigued to see what happens when all of Void Knight's plans finally come to fruition, even if it doesn't result in another Mucus dance party. So make sure to join me next time for a deeper look at episode 21 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, the season finale, Void Trap. And if you would like to share this week's rapid run-through, you can find it as a standalone clip over at Morphin Legacy's YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe to us both, ring the bell for future notifications, and until next time, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.